Previously, after the death of the crown prince of the Brun kingdom in a war against Zigtad, Duke Ganelon and Thenardia started competing for the throne. But Duke Ganelon's scheme led Duke Thenardia into a corner as the enemy nation of Wozolan attacks province under Thenardia, but our protagonist Tigra gets there to save the town and Brunish people. But Ellen had to leave Tigra's side to help a fellow war maiden, because her territory was under attack from another war maiden, however. It was also Duke Ganelon's plan to defeat Tigra and Thenardia in a single shot, but while Tigra was in a difficult situation, Ludmila arrived on Tigra's side in this war. Part 3. Wozolans gathered 40,000 troops to invade further into Brun Kingdom and made 4 divisions to hold the front line, and another 2 divisions thought of taking another route. But Ludmila and Tigra failed their attempt. Tigra had made the plan to lure them in by using normal civilians whom they saved from Wozolans. So when they got the chance, Ludmila and Tigra wanted to wipe out the 7th division, but suddenly that 6th division changed their path and began to follow them, so taking that chance. Wozolan king had surrounded them in a box of his troops, and odds were against Tigra and Ludmila. But their reinforcement arrived in time for them, and now the battle was getting on a little equal footing between 2 forces. But Wozolan king was still in the game, making new strategy for victory, but another 3,000 troops of reinforcement joins Tigra, which gives Wozolan a drastic disadvantage. So he pulled back his troops for now to merge his shattered troops formations. He had already lost 10,000 troops in this battle just against Tigra. And forces of Duke Thenardia had yet to join the battle, so Wozolan king understood withdrawing would be the best course of action, so he sends out his envoy to announce his surrender to Tigra. But Tigra was utterly exhausted and falls asleep right on top of Ludmila. She saw Tigra was exhausted, so she didn't woke him up and slept along with him that night. But Ellen had returned early in the morning, so Ludmila used this chance to make her jealous. After that, more and more nobles were joining Tigra to fight against 2 Duke. So Ludmila invited Tigra to her castle for tea just to pick a fight with Ellen, so Ellen started to snatch him away from there, so Ludmila grabbed him as well. But an aide of Ludmila came there to request her help on a matter, so she had to leave, so Ellen took Tigra on a plain sight for a drink. But there Tigra apologized to her for the death of every man from her army. But Ellen just told him to lie down and took his hand and told him to pray to God for every man who laid down their lives for his cause, which relaxed his heart and made a sweet memory with Ellen. The next day, while Tigra was sleeping, another war maiden named Valentina arrives, but Tigra grabs her breast in his sleep, but she holds back from killing Tigra and leaves for some reason. Then that sweet and soft feeling was still bugging him, but then Mashus tells them a person is in the refugee camp resembles Crown Prince Regnies who died in the war, and right then, Bertrand brought the girl that Tigra had saved from Wozolans. Mashus got pale, and there she reveals that her name is Regine, but her real name until now was Regnies, the Crown Prince. She tells Tigra of their first meeting on the hunting festival where they had a meal together on the outing to prove she's the prince. And Tigra remembers that day and Mashus blacks out learning this shocking truth. So she had pretended to be a boy her entire life, because the queen who gives birth to a girl is scorned by the court and the princess had very low chance of ascending the throne. But Ellen tells them that no one will ever believe the prince who died in the war came back to life as a princess, and King Farron is also in no condition to be a proof of Regine's existence. Poor girl learned about her father's conditions and became concerned, so Tigra asked her why she trusts him. So she tells him that his intentions are pure, that he's helping out all the people despite being labeled as a traitor, and most importantly, when he had the chance. Tigra did not make a move on her. Ellen wanted to know about this move matter, and Regine told them that when she met Tigra, she asked him to help her bath. And Tigra did help her, but he never tried to take advantage of her, but others would still need a proof of her being the crown prince, so Regine told them about Lutacha, where a holy grotto exists beneath their plains, which is only accessible for royal blood, so they quickly begins to march towards Artesian and encountered Tarandia's army. But Duke had brought 2 powerful dragons, so Ellen and Ludmila decided to face them together, but their attacks were getting nullified and Ellen saved Ludmila from a fire attack. Meanwhile Tigra was holding the foot soldiers of Duke. Then, while getting the chance to regroup, Tigra and the others started to make a strategy to counter-attack Thenardia's forces. Then, after their tactics discussion, Tigra puts their plan into action by splitting the troops in 2 to give Ellen and Ludmila a way to bring down those dragons. And this time, they got 1 dragon, but another one pushed the girls back, so Ellen used her dragon arts to kill the dragon from the inside. So, after that deadly battle, all the girls were having a nice bath in the river to wash off their stress, and after that bath, they gets to Tigra, but he had passed out again from overwork. So Tiada told them Tigra is sensitive to threat. So hearing this, Ellen uses her bloodlust to wake Tigra up, but he instantly brought Ellen under him. Then Tiada prepared their lunch and Ellen brought up their next move. Tigra had already decided to move towards Artesian and moves out their army to their destination. Then they arrives at the temple and found the path to the underground palace and moved in as Regine leads them. There they saw the old Burnish mythology. So Regine was sure that Holy Grotto is right up ahead, but up ahead they ran into Duke Thenardia and his soldiers. So Bertrand took Regine away and Tigra and his troops engaged in a battle with Thenardia, so Ellen chose to take on the Duke while his commander gets to Tigra and Regine. But the cave couldn't hold up with the massive fight, so Tigra chose to hold off the enemy commander, but to save Tigra's life, Bertrand rushed in and the way there got blocked by falling stones. But when Tigra comes to his senses, Bertrand was taking his final breaths as he took the blow from that enemy to save Tigra, and there Bertrand leaves Tigra's side. Then Ellen brought some assistance back but saw a black energy rising up from the ground, so she gets to the point of that location and saw Tigra lying down unconscious. He was fine, but Bertrand had lost his life. It had shaken Tigra from within that he had lost his will to move forward. Tigra had lost all hope, so Ellen comes there. She tells Tigra to move forward or the sacrifice Bertrand made will be for nothing. She tells Tigra about her past when she was a mercenary herself and saw her men die on every side, but she kept moving forward with her pride. Tigra gets that and apologizes to Tita for making her worry for him. Then Ellen finally tells Tigra about her reason for helping him in this war. It wasn't only because she loves him. His hometown also can be a bridge to connect various regions by creating new trade routes, which is also one of the reasons she chose to fight alongside Tigra. Then the Prime Minister visited Tigra's camp with the news that King Farron has finally recovered, and upon investigation they discovered Duke Ganelon poisoned him, causing him to have mental issues. But he doesn't have much time left, so Prime Minister told Tigra to bring back Princess to the capital, but Tigra knew Duke Thenardia would block his way and his assumptions were correct. Both armies collided, and Tigra came face to face with the Duke Thenardia, so Tigra took this fight on him and remembered the power goddess gave him. But Ellen punches him to bring him back to his senses because Tigra was about to lose himself in hatred. Tigra gets that and took only one arrow to kill the Duke. Tigra fires that arrow and for a moment Duke could have blocked it, but it flipped a bit higher from the wind and hits him in the head. The war ended when the Duke was killed. So the capital celebrated the return of the princess, and the guest of honor was Tigra, but he was quite nervous being the center of attention, so the Prime Minister leads them to the King Farron. And Sophie was already waiting for them there. The king was grateful for protecting the princess, so King gave Tigra the title and of the Royal Knight of the Moon, and then died after several days. Then Princess Regine becomes the queen and everything had returned back to normal. But only Prime Minister knew that person with the title of Moon Knight could become the king, but whom will Tigra chose from all of the girls? So that remains the mystery and the anime comes to an end, but please subscribe the channel for more old and new anime recaps.